Welcome to the HMO Property Show, by investors for investors. Brought to you by the HMO Property Co, Australia's leaders in impact investing. Investments made with the intention to generate a measurable, beneficial social or environmental impact alongside a positive financial return. Catch us weekly as we discuss all things cash flow positive property investing.
Okay, so today I've got a HMO client with me, Mr. Rick Attard. Rick, how's it going?
Hey Neil, going very well.
Recording in progress.
Thank you for your time today, mate. Really appreciate it. Rick, can you give us a little bit of background on you? Who are you? What do you do? Where do you live?
Yeah, okay. All right, well, I'm where I live, firstly, is in a area called Woongoolba, which is North Gold Coast. It's a great, not many people know it, okay? So, yeah. But it's, and I'm surrounded by sugarcane. It's a great place. I really like it, but it's very North Gold Coast and not far from a town called Jacobs Well. So I'm close to the water, and I'm still, North Gold Coast. I'm practically halfway between Brisbane and Surfers Paradise, but I've got the benefit of all this land around me. So it's like I'm living way out west somewhere, and surrounded by sugarcane. So that's where I live. I really like it here. Other than for that reason, I also there's an airfield that's close to me where I live here, only 5 kilometres away, and that's one of my recreational interests is flying aircraft. So being so close to the airfield is terrific because I hangar an aircraft there and I can go flying way more often in this beautiful area so easily because it's so nearby. So that's where I live. What I do for a living is I'm a full-time firefighter and have been on the Gold Coast for 20 years now. Mm-hmm. A great job, okay? Even though it's a job, I really enjoy it. So I've been in emergency services before. I used to be a policeman in Melbourne years ago, and I seem to like that kind of work. So not only because it's an exciting vocation where anything can happen and you're rescuing people or doing something that you don't know what's going to happen every day, which I really like, and also affords me a lot of time off, so the roster's really good so I can pursue other interests. So I like that work. And what I also do is I sell aircraft for people as a broker. And I just kind of fell into that. So I did between being a policeman and a firefighter, I was in the corporate industry for a while, so I developed a lot of sales skills from a lot of healthy salesmen, like really well-qualified, genuine people. And when I found that when I helped a friend of mine sell an aircraft to him, it wasn't long after that that other people started to give me their planes to sell and asked me to sell them. And I noticed that I think what happened is I was combining my genuine passion for aviation with really good sales skills. And so I was able to convey that product over to someone, to a potential buyer, and being fully genuine and sincere. And so that turned into something. So that's just a business that I have on the side that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of...
So a busy man. Living surrounded by nature, but at the same time got everything on your doorstep, flight path, water, loving life.
Yes, yeah, good, really good spot to live.
Yeah,
I really like it.
Fantastic.
And the peace and quiet deal too. I'm somebody that loves peace and quiet, just loves the quiet. So I don't think I could be, when I was deciding where to live after going through a divorce 4 years ago, I started to think, could I do the high-rise thing, or the suburb thing? And I get too scared with that because, it's the next-door neighbour who smokes, or the one over there plays the music you don't like, or the dog's barking over there. I can't do it. I need incredible soundproofing if I was
Let's talk about property, Rick. How long have you been investing for?
Only 1 year.
1 year.
Yeah, so not very long at all, but what an exciting year. What happened was I took an interest in property I was married for 25 years. I took an interest in property about 5 years after I was married, and that was mainly because my younger sister and her husband, who live in Victoria, was starting to delve into the property market. And he's a policeman in Victoria, and my sister's an investigator for Centrelink. And all that happened was they just went to a seminar, and I think it would have been negative gearing back then. That would have been the way to do it.
Yep.
And they took a leap and started to do things. And then over the years, I watched them progress and succeed and buy more properties. And I found it fascinating. But the trouble was I couldn't really do much about it because I was married to a risk-averse lady. Mm-hmm. And so as much as I felt like, we should undertake something like this or get into investing, my ex-partner was content to wait to receive the inheritance of her wealthy parents. So it was always, we don't have to do it. We don't need to take a risk because one day all that will be ours. And, that's a terrible way of thinking, and it's very limiting too. And so, but I wouldn't get involved in property unless my partner was, keen to do it as well.
Board,
okay,
yeah.
So I think it would have been unhealthy to do something like that without her on side. So I kind of just wrote it off, but just watching it happen around me. So so it's only been a year after being separated. I rented a property for a year, which I couldn't stand doing, while I was deciding where I want to live, as I mentioned earlier. And then when I found this place and bought it, there was a big sigh of relief because now I'm in my own house. My money's going towards my own house. But then I knew after that, once I'd settled, it was time to do something, okay, to improve my financial future. And that's what got me motivated. But it hasn't been long, so I'm been a year.
There you go. And you said it's been one of the most exciting years, or it has been an exciting year.
Yes,
yep.
Yeah, ups and downs too.
Yep.
But, to be now, can I say, on the side of the property investment people area, it's a positive change.
Beautiful. So what was the feeling like as you were deciding that you wanted to get into real estate? Obviously, there's a lot of different options out there, a lot of different people to work with, all the different states that you can invest in. What was your decision process to look for positive cash flow instead of negatively gearing? And what was the sort of criteria that you went through when you were looking for the right people to work with?
Okay, so firstly, when you mentioned negative gearing, that never really appealed to me in the past. Okay, so again, I kind of felt like, well, had I investigated it further, then perhaps I would have taken a step if my partner was on board. But I used to be kind of shut off to it. And I think one of the reasons is, and perhaps to my detriment now, is that I was always a short-term thinker, never the long-game thinker. And why I say to my detriment is because there's a lot of benefits for being a long-game thinker that I'm learning more and more about now. And so negative gearing didn't appeal because it meant that the property would return less than it's costing. And being a short-term thinker, I liked immediate return for effort.
Yeah.
So I was always a wheeler and dealer. I'd always find ways to earn small bits of money. I'd make furniture, or I'd sell plants, or even teach my kids how to do it. We'd pot some plants and sell those. And even though that's, you got to wait someone a few months, but it was a definite return for effort. So I always wanted to see something come back.
Yep.
As a negative gearing idea, to me, it couldn't. And I was always nervous about what could go wrong, interest rates and so forth. And so it didn't work, for me. So but then, of course, now that, I'm single, more things opened up. And so I started to generate more and more interest and say, well, now I want to do something. I want to step into this property world that is apparently out there that I know so little about. And I suppose watching my sister and her husband do so well after a relatively, what was it, done in a 15-year period, and they've done so well, I thought, I'm not blazing a trail here. the people are doing it all around me. There was one thing that bothered me so much was this saying that a wealthy American guy said once that I heard. He said when he was starting his early days of business, he said it was terrible being in an environment of success and failing. I kind of felt like that. I was watching this happen around me to people that weren't extraordinary, okay? And they're doing this thing, and I felt like I was being held back. So can I tell you the story about how it came to happen?
Absolutely. Yes, please.
Okay, so this is how I got into investing into a HMO and with you. And I'm on, as you know, I'm on the Gold Coast in Queensland. I'm a long way from where you are, but it was just that I took a very nice lady for a social coffee at lunchtime one time, and it turned out that she was a property guru. Like, she'd been investing in property for a long time in a lot of different ways.
Yep.
So, of course, my ears pricked up whenever she started to talk about it. And I was quizzing her. It was like it turned from a social nice cup of coffee to a Q&A session. But the upside was because, she's passionate about property, she's very happy to talk about it. So I wasn't bothering her. It was thrilling for her to discuss it and to see someone taking so much interest. And it wasn't until she talked to me about her words that she said were called micro apartment properties. So she shared that idea with me, and then, wow, I could see the merit in that. And so I just, cut a long story short, I pursued that. And then I got in touch with some people that deal in that type of industry, and I spoke to a consultant, and they got the ball rolling. And I was learning a whole lot, but also stepping into unfamiliar territory. So I did need some help and guidance. But that's how I got into that. And when I think about it, what I think was a major key to help me get underway was, as I mentioned earlier, being the short-term thinker, which is how I've been conditioned, I suppose, to be, or just how my personality is, right? Wanting to have that need for immediate return satisfied, but now understanding the benefits of long-term thinking, the HMO property concept satisfied both of those needs. So it was like the right thing came to me at the right time. Of course, there was a process to go through then.
Yeah.
But I really felt like, okay, I want to hang on to this one and get going. So that's kind of how it began.
Yeah. So take us through the process of deciding whether you were going to work and invest in Western Australia, because, like you say, you're on the other side of the country, and it's a pretty big country. So what was the process that you went through? And also, was there any mindset shifts that you needed to make to be able to comprehend investing so far away with your first investment property?
Yes, there was. All right, so let's talk about the mindset shift first. So remember that even though I had some compelling desire to want to do something and to reestablish myself financially for a better financial future, I was definitely motivated to act. Okay, but I've got a lot of history of not acting in the property market, and therefore that mindset had to change. I know I'm going to have to take a leap of faith here, and I know I'm going to have to do something that, again, I'm not used to doing. So I told you that one of my ways of thinking was short-term thinking, but another thing that was, and I'll call it detrimental, because even though we can function quite well being people of an independent mindset, okay, and I think I function well enough, I think we're very limited when we don't step up to the interdependent mindset, as Stephen Covey talks about in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There is a greater benefit for being interdependent. So my mindset had to change from me just doing things for myself, like I'm a solo sport player and a solo in everything. I don't like the team concept and depending on other people. My mindset had to change. I'm going to have to take a risk, I suppose, or a leap of faith and say, now I've got to find the right people I can trust, which is hard for me to do, and invest in their knowledge and their guidance. And so that was the mindset change. What happened after that? So basically, I know I'm going to have to go through this, and that's not just that was a change that took a period of time. Like, you can make the decision to go ahead, but you're speaking to new people all the time. Can you trust them? This is going through your mind all the time. Very difficult. And then they can let you down. Well, that sets you back again. So now do you press on? So, of course, I did. And what happened was, I had the first that lady that I mentioned earlier guiding me and encouraging me, just as a friend. Mm-hmm. And then I had a consultant to speak to here in Queensland, in Brisbane, who was guiding me through the process and encouraging me also and helping me answer a lot of questions that I had. And one of the questions that I had, Neil, because I'd managed properties before for my former father-in-law, and this is not in a professional way, if you like. He just asked me, he said, well, you may as well manage them rather than me give the money to a real estate agent. So it was a learning curve for me. I just said, well, okay, I'll take it on and learn how to do it. Yeah. But the first tenant we put in his executive residence that rented for $1,000 a week turned out to be a professional conman. And I want to go into great detail other than to say that I had to take it to court, and my father-in-law lost $30,000 because of it, and it was never retrieved. So, of course, now the idea of having tenants concerns me. But the consultant that I was speaking with up here explained how the HMO model means that the people, the tenants aren't really tenants under the normal agreement, they're residents, and therefore the landlord has a lot more power. Wow, that was a great weight off my shoulders, okay, for me personally. So then I proceeded, and then what happened after that was, of course, now it's time to find out how much you can borrow. Okay, so that means speaking with brokers. Okay, so this is where things got interesting. This is the roller coaster part, because I really despise doing paperwork. And so that meant that filling out so many documents about what I own, what I earn, what I can pay back, and all, the lenders scrutinise you, and of course they've been through that. What did they go through? It's on the tip of my tongue. When they got investigated by the government, I think the right term, Royal Commission.
Yeah,
right?
Royal Commission. Yeah.
Means that they're a lot more stringent now. So what was happening then was I was speaking to a broker. He'd go and apply to the lenders for me after I did this nightmare of paperwork, and it'd come back saying, no, I can't loan you the money that you need. So then I felt dejected and wanted to give up and quit. And then the consultant said, no, look, just they're like mechanics. You just got to find one. In my mind, they're all the same. They're all applying to the banks. Why is one bank going to say no, and the same one say yes when someone else applies? But he explained that they have different lenders that they speak to and different relationships, and they know how to manage it. So that consultant was very good for me and helped me. So he was the second key player in the process. And why I call this the roller coaster process, because it was a nightmare. A lot of stress at this time, a lot of stress. But had I not had adopted that team player mentality, had I been researching and doing this all my own, I would have stepped down. So thankfully they were there. But it wasn't until I met the third person involved that the consultant put me onto, and that became the hinge point for me to continue. And that was a broker called Carmel McKay-Schmidt, which you know very well. Mm-hmm. So Carmel understood my situation, and not only did she guide me through the process as far as what was required professionally, she catered to my needs psychologically. Okay, so when I'd get upset and frustrated, she would just calm me down, right? Like calming the savage beast. Over the phone, my frustration and anger in another document, and she would just calm me down and just tell me to keep on going. And I'm content to say that if it wasn't for Carmel, I would have walked, I think. And thank God that she was there, because now I'm through it all and I'm so grateful. And so until in those early stages, even though these people were guiding me, this might be a little harsh to say, but I wouldn't probably pick on the other two. But all the others surrounding me that I was consulting with or asking, but the only one I trusted was Carmel at that time. Because I'll tell you what she did that was beneficial for me was she'd call after hours just to check on my mental health. So,
it's incredible.
Anyway, I'm making it sound like a terrible experience. It wasn't completely, but it was a lot of stress, and that's probably due to myself and my hatred for paperwork.
Yeah.
But then over to Perth. How did I get there? You asked me that question.
Yeah, so all of this that you've just spoken about previously, that was before you even came to us. This was trying to find out if you had a borrowing capacity to actually buy a property.
That's right.
Right.
That's the thing. You've got to go through that. You've got to find out what you can borrow, what you can buy.
Yeah.
So what happened was that once we established that, Carmel and I established that, I then was not able to get a property in Brisbane for the money that I could borrow. Okay? And so having no experience in the property game, of course, like perhaps most people you might encounter with their first one, we get emotional about buying property, which is wrong, right? So here I am going, I really, really want to get one in property. I don't want to, in Brisbane. I don't want to go to Perth. That's over there. I want it to be here so I can drive past it and look at it.
Yep.
Say that's more all that emotional, unnecessary stuff. And but nevertheless, I couldn't do it. And the first lady that I mentioned, when I spoke to her about that, she said, poured out these words of wisdom, okay? And this is for the benefit of anyone that's got that feeling of being emotional about property. She said, you're being emotional about property. Don't do that. She said, I don't care where the properties are. I don't care if I don't even know where they are. If the numbers work, I buy it.
Beautiful.
So, that again sort of was a bit of a friendly slap in the face. So then, we had to go to Perth. And Carmel had already some experience with you, and so that was great because I could speak to her about buying in Perth. And Carmel was of the same opinion. It doesn't matter where it is as long as the numbers work. Mm. So I leaned on her a lot, and then she put me in touch with you. And then that's how we got started over there. And you and I communicated over the phone and through emails, and of course we sorted out through a lot of problems. And then once things started to get underway, and once particularly, I got a feel for who you were. I mean, I don't always trust my judgment. Okay, I can be wrong. So I needed to get some feedback from Carmel and anyone else that knew you. And someone who used to work for you too. I spoke with as well, Melissa, and really encouraged me. Okay, and so did Carmel. And I thought, yeah, okay, that's enough. That's enough. Again, you've got to take a leap of faith sometimes. But that was enough, and it worked out wonderfully after. So that's how we got started in Perth, and how I got started with you.
Beautiful, beautiful. So what's the outcome that you've got now, Rick? 12 months after you started investing, how is that investment looking for you now?
Spectacular. Okay. What a contrast, Neil. From being on that side before, on the non-investor side, to being where I am now, it's difficult to describe. It's just sheer gratitude and excitement, and I'm so glad I made that choice to go over. How's it looking now? This is true, okay? So this is not long after, because of course you manage the property as well as your company, and not long after you completed the conversion. I think it was a period of perhaps 3 or 4 weeks before, because it was over Christmas too, which is never the best time, when we started to put the residents in the rooms. But it was a relatively very short period until we filled them all up. I think we did 5 rooms by December, and then 1 in January, something like that. Okay, so now you want to see the rooms filled and you want to see the property producing because nothing's really happening that's that exciting until the money starts coming in.
Yeah.
Think a guy, right? Well, let's have it. I want to see some of the candy now. So I get all that engine room stuff. Now I want to see the returns, and so that started to happen. And boy, what a relief that was. And so now this is great. So this is my first one. I've got this property, and I'm in the property game. This is cool. And and then to see that it's returning so positively, right? It's exciting. It's like, okay, I don't have to think about it now. The property is supporting itself, and then some. Like, you're making a profit. But that's exciting. But you know what? Because of my experience with it and my uncertainty of what's really going on, there was a friend of mine up here who's young but really invested in property, and he had a look at the figures, okay, the numbers. And I should have known this, but he looked at the numbers and said, do you know what your property over there is doing? I said, what? He said, you've almost doubled your firefighter income. And your gross return is almost double what you're earning, almost. And I said, no, can't be. I said, really? Like, he started laughing at my unbelief. Like, it couldn't be that good. And so it wasn't. I can't explain, like, why didn't I know? I should have known that, sure. But it just seemed too good to be true.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, that's what happened. So then, of course, now that I'm experiencing it for real, and literally, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, is that all I had to do? Yeah, it was difficult to go through in the early stages, but I could have been doing this so long ago. And now this is happening. How fantastic is this? It's great. Yeah. So I'm wrapped. and also, regarding Perth and Brisbane, the only thing that I heard, which I don't know if it's correct or not, I think it is, was that, yeah, sure, it'd be great to purchase in Brisbane. Apparently the potential capital growth might be better in Brisbane, but the rent's better in Perth. But then even Carmel wisened me to that too. She said, look, Perth is on the increase. These other places like Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne, I mean, I'm being vague here. I don't have absolute numbers or anything, but have kind of flattened off. But Perth's getting a lot of exciting things happening now. So that really just was terrific for me too. So again, it satisfied both needs that I have. So you can tell from my voice how excited I am. I talk to people about this whenever they ask me about property. I say people away because this is how I'm conveying it.
And you mentioned earlier, Rick, you're a busy man. You're a firefighter. You're in aviation. You're selling airplanes for people. How much time have you had to put towards this property in the 6 months now that you've had tenants in there?
Oh, how much time? Okay. Hardly any time at all now. Like, what do I have to do? Your company's managing it. I'm very, very happy with the way they're doing it. Freddie's the guy I speak to who works for you.
Yeah.
Very approachable, understands my personality, and attends to the questions that I have very quickly. I don't have to invest any time in it now other than the paperwork that I do myself here at home, keeping records and so forth. And it's all handled by your company. And again, I think that's another thing I had to do, was to learn how to hand that over too. So again, that's another mindset change. So remember, I was managing the properties for my father-in-law, so it's a tendency for me is to want to do it myself. But that's 95% minded thinking, not 5% minded thinking. It's not business thinking.
Yeah.
Business thinking that's they're professional at that. Let them do it. Okay, if there's any issues, you deal with them. But why am I going to be taking on all the burden and the problem? And it's over in Perth too, so how do I manage them? How do I manage the problems myself over there? So it's much better. I mean, if you failed at it, you were poor at it, then it would cost me. And then it would mean that I'm going to seek the services from someone else. And, you get over that hurdle and do it. But you're doing a great job. So it's like having Carmel on my side as my broker now and never want to leave her, right? And it's similar with you guys over there. So I know what you're capable of, and you and I, Neil, talked about things in the early days. We had a few hurdles and we got over them well. And one thing I've said about you when I say to other people is you also are a long-term thinker. You play the long game because you understood my situation where it got difficult and you managed it like a long-term thinker. So really appreciated that. Made all the difference. And so I don't want to let you go either. So that's why I want to do more business with you, you know.
Brilliant, mate. Appreciate that, Rick. Thank you. Lastly, before I let you go, what would you say to anybody that's kind of sitting on the fence? Maybe they live in Queensland, Victoria, or New South Wales, and they're umming and ahhing about potentially using the services that we offer.
Yeah, no. I'm sorry that I took so long to get into it. I'm busting to get my next property. So anyone that's sitting on the fence, stop doing that. You're going to get nowhere sitting on the fence, neither left nor right. There's look, this is my first one. I went through the hell of it, all the stressful times of getting through all the paperwork and everything like that. Mind you, I did it by myself and with a negative mindset. So if you're someone like me, and now I've gotten past all that, it took a few months to get through it all. But once I got past all that, look at me now. I've doubled my income. Who does that in less than a year? Okay, so this is, I've been in the property. I purchased that property around July, and it was at January that it was, everything was completed and done. So that doesn't mean you. That means for me getting the property and everything underway. So it was only like in a period of 6 months, I've doubled my income. And you're sitting on the fence wondering if you should do it or not. This is the way to do it. So just the returns alone show you that. Okay, and also remember the thing for me, that big thing about the tenants versus residents. Big thing. Do you know that it took me, for anyone that's thinking of buying property, why you don't want to do anything but a HMO, you don't want to do it the traditional way, is because it took me more than 8 weeks to take that Tom woman to court. 8 weeks of no rent. Okay, yeah, you can have rental insurance, but what a nightmare. Then I took her to court, then she lost the case, but the judge gave her another 2 weeks to get out. No rent again. Then the property's ruined. And then I thought, I looked at the judge and said, how do I recoup the money? He couldn't answer. The clerk of courts told me, well, you've got to take it to another court now. Financial court, where you challenge and question her about her assets and everything, how much she can afford to pay. Not doing that again. No way. And then you've got an opportunity of getting a HMO property, doubling your potential rent return, and not having that concern? No question, Nick.
No brainer.
So if anyone's got any doubts, just give them my number, buddy.
Well, you've already referred 3 people through to us, I think.
Yes.
So again, appreciate the referrals, mate. Always good to when other people come through because of a happy client that we've got.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, I can't wait to do more of these. Just got to find a way. It's a solution, It's a brilliant solution.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be long.
And without, I know you're conducting this interview with me, but this is for the listeners. I'm not going to say this about this guy unless I'm sincere, okay, and genuine. This guy, Neil, looked after me. He did everything right, the best he could. He broke his back for me, really. So am I going to look elsewhere? If I'm going to buy in Perth, I don't need to chase anybody else. You're the guy. That's it. That's done. Taken care of. Beautiful. You're the right man.
Beautiful, mate. I'm looking forward to doing a reval on that property with Carmel pretty soon because the market has gone crazy. It is going crazy. And with Carmel, we actually renovated one of hers and refinanced it, and the price came in a lot higher as well. So maybe that's the next step.
Okay. I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Hurry up.
Rick, thank you very much for your time, buddy. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Nice to talk to you again, Neil. All the best.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you tune in the same time next week so you stay up to date with all the cash flow positive property updates.